Hi there, it's Shamrocker again. Welcome to the Proud Heretic channel, where today's topic is the cost of toxic certainty when religion kills empathy. Let me offer a description here and see if you can resonate with it. For years, I thought the greatest danger facing Christianity and my Christian faith personally was being wrong. Wrong doctrine, wrong theology, wrong politics, wrong biblical interpretation, so on and so forth. But eventually, I began to wonder if I had been asking the wrong kinds of questions all along. What if the greatest danger isn't being wrong? What if the greatest danger is becoming so dogmatically certain that we stop seeing the human being standing right in front of us? Is that a possibility? Because here's something I couldn't ignore. Again and again, I watched hurting people come to churches looking for compassion. A gay teenager struggling to survive. A woman leaving an abusive marriage. Or someone questioning their faith. Someone living with depression. Someone simply asking difficult questions that they don't understand. Too often, I found the response wasn't, "Tell me your story. How can I listen?" Rather, it was, "Here's the correct doctrine. Here's what you need to do. The list of 5 things that you can do to get God to accept you better." Or the ever patronizing, "I'll pray for you." As if something is wrong with you. As if victim blaming should be the preferred tactic. Somewhere along the way, defending the system became more important than understanding the person. And I can speak from personal experience. I participated in this plenty after having spent 47 years as an evangelical Christian. That realization forced me to ask a difficult question. If my theology requires me to ignore someone else's suffering in order to stay biblically correct, then what exactly have I become? What does that say about me? Does that make me a religious hypocrite? Part 1. The seduction of certainty. Now, here's a big idea. Certainty feels psychologically safe. I know. I was there. Now, humans naturally crave certainty. Uncertainty creates anxiety. And over the course of human history, religion can provide and has provided genuine comfort to a lot of people. The problem begins not with religion itself, but when certainty becomes identity. I didn't just believe some doctrines as an evangelical Christian. I believed that questioning those doctrines threatened my very identity as a person. Now, when your identity depends on always being right, as it does and did for me in evangelical Christianity, you are at war with everything and everybody, and compassion quietly becomes negotiable. Part 2. When people become problems to solve. One of the saddest realizations in my faith deconstruction was recognizing how easily doctrine can replace curiosity and compassion. For example, if we take a look at LGBTQ plus neighbors and siblings, instead of asking, "What has your life actually been like?" the first question becomes, in evangelical Christianity, is your identity even biblical? Or if we look at mental health, instead of, "How can I help?" we ask, "Have you prayed enough? Have you read your Bible enough? Maybe you just need more Jesus time." Or if we look at doubt, where a lot of Christians have questioned things and do have questions about things. Instead of, "What led you here?" to be interested in the person. Rather, we ask, "What sin has caused this?" Now, talk about proof texting. Talk about reducing complicated and nuanced lives into tight theological categories. You see, once people become categories, humanity starts disappearing. Part 3. The human cost of toxic certainty. I honestly believed that I was loving people when I was in evangelical Christianity, and saying, I'll pray for you, or is your identity even biblical, so on and so forth. Mostly I wasn't. Not really. Sometimes I was defending an idea. You see, I viewed it as love because I could not fathom anything else to be true outside of the Truman Show, outside of Plato's cave. So I had to impose the truth, or what I call truth, or understood to be truth, on other people, that I was speaking the truth in love. But if we look in cases of church hurt, in a book titled When Religion Hurts You by Dr. Laura Anderson, this is probably the single best source. Now, the useful point here is that harm often results not merely from theology itself, but from environments where fear, shame, and control become normalized. If we look at the Family Acceptance Report, and we find that family rejection predicts elevated risk for depression, substance abuse, and suicidality, while family acceptance is clearly associated with markedly improved outcomes. And then from there, we could take a look at purity culture, titled Pure, and there she documents shame, sexual anxiety, perfectionism, identity struggles among those raised in evangelical purity culture. And we can take a look at scrupulosity in The Doubting Disease, which is a classic work. And this shows that scrupulosity is OCD centered around religious concerns, intrusive doubt, compulsive confession, such as I'm sinning at every corner, or do I have any unrepentant sins? Am I sinning here, there, or anywhere? Also reassurance seeking, and then of course LGBTQ plus exclusion. And then also there's the righteous mind, and that discusses tribalism, moral certainty, and group identity. And the key insight here is that people usually reason after they've reached an intuitive moral conclusion. And then, of course, by Peter Enns, you could see The Sin of Certainty. Great book. I've got it right over there on my bookshelf. Wonderful book. And the core idea in Dr. Enns' book is that absolute certainty can, in fact, become an idol, and is, in fact, an idol for many evangelical Christians that crowds out humility, curiosity, and genuine faith. That's why I continually say that in my deconstruction, I didn't lose faith. I found my faith. I found my own feathers. How minds change, and this is an excellent resource on why confrontation rarely changes deeply held beliefs and why empathy is often more effective than certainty in fostering meaningful dialogue. I've apologized to many people, to my own children included, because certainty once mattered to me more than simply listening. Some people report experiences where empirical evidence about LGBTQ plus people and their well-being or mental health outcomes is discounted because accepting it would threaten an existing theological framework. Rather than generalizing, I frame this as a pattern that can occur in some communities, as it did with me, and encourage viewers to examine for yourself whether doctrine is preventing honest engagement with the evidence. Are we choosing data or dogma? Part 4, Jesus and the danger of certainty. Now, I don't want to make sweeping claims here, but if we're talking about toxic certainty versus radical compassion, then I think the parable of the Good Samaritan is arguably the strongest biblical example. Why? Well, because Jesus deliberately overturns ethnic prejudice, religious tribalism, and purity concerns. The point of this parable is not simply to be nice. It's that the person the audience least expected became the very model of neighborly love. Now, in this parable, what do we see? The first thing, we see a lawyer wanted a boundary. The story begins with a lawyer asking Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Notice what he's really asking, though. He isn't asking, "How can I love more people?" He's asking, "Where does my obligation end?" It's a question about drawing boundaries. you see. Jesus responds by dissolving the boundary altogether. Because next we see the Samaritans were more than people from another town. Jews and Samaritans shared ancient Israelite roots, but centuries of political division, intermarriage, rival temples, and mutual hostility had created deep, long-standing, entrenched animosity. To many in Jesus' audience, the Samaritan wasn't simply different. He represented the religious outsider, the theological opponent, a half-breed, the person your community warned you about. But next we see Jesus deliberately reverses expectations, doesn't he? The injured man is first passed by a priest and then a Levite. These are precisely the people expected to embody God's law. Then comes the Samaritan, the one many listeners would least expect to exemplify this righteousness. As next we see compassion overrides ritual concerns. Some scholars suggest the priest and Levite may have feared ritual impurity if the injured man were dead, and we can see Numbers 19. Others caution that this is only one possible explanation, since the text itself doesn't explicitly say why they passed by. Regardless of the reason, though, Jesus' point remains. Compassion takes precedence over maintaining religious status and avoiding inconvenience. Next, we see the neighbor is redefined. The lawyer asks, "Who is my neighbor?" Well, Jesus ends by asking, which of these three became a neighbor? The question changes from who deserves my compassion to will I become the kind of person who shows compassion? Jesus moves the focus from identifying worthy recipients to embodying mercy and love. We see mercy becomes the highest virtue here. The lawyer cannot even bring himself to say the Samaritan, can he? Instead, he answers, the one who showed mercy. Jesus replies, go and do likewise. He says to you, go do likewise. He says to me, go do likewise. Not go and think likewise. Not go and vote likewise. Not go and believe likewise. But go and show mercy. And everybody is your neighbor. Well, who are the outcast and most despised in our social circles today? Immigrants, maybe? Black people? LGBTQ plus neighbors? Think about it. So what's the summary connection here in this parable? Well, the lawyer wanted to know where love could safely stop. Jesus answered by showing that love crosses the very boundaries that religion and dogmatism often build. You see, the surprising hero was not the priest. It wasn't the Levite. It was the person that many religious people would have dismissed as the theological outcast. They don't even matter. They don't even count as people. Well, that doesn't mean doctrine is unimportant, but it does suggest that compassion is never optional and should be subordinated, in fact, to the weightier matters. So I think the most compelling takeaway of the story is this. Jesus wasn't merely telling people to be nice or compassionate. He chose the person that his audience was most inclined to dismiss as a qualifying moral example. That's what made the story so unsettling in me. And so we see the pattern. Jesus repeatedly interrupts oppressive systems. He often prioritizes people, actual humans, over rigid rule-keeping. Maybe we should ask ourselves, what if compassion wasn't the exception? What if compassion was always the point? Part 5. Intellectual humility. I experienced a huge shift. I no longer think humility means assuming I'm always wrong. Humility means remaining teachable. And we can contrast that attitude, really, with toxic certainty, which says, I already know. But healthy humility says, tell me more. How can I listen? Toxic certainty says, my doctrine comes first. Compassion says, your humanity comes first. Doctrine be damned. And so this just introduces a practical test. If new evidence, another person's lived experience, or careful scholarship should never influence your view, is your belief being examined or merely defended at human cost? Part 6. Love isn't weakness. My deconstruction was not about becoming less Christian. If anything, I'm more Christian now than I ever was. It wasn't about becoming anti-Christian. It wasn't about abandoning morality. It was about discovering that certainty is not the highest virtue. Love is. Compassion is. Humility is. Curiosity is. I still believe that people can disagree deeply and vigorously. But I no longer believe that disagreement requires dehumanization. Maybe spiritual maturity isn't measured by how confidently we defend our beliefs. Maybe it's measured by how gently we hold them while caring for the people right in front of us. If certainty causes us to stop listening, perhaps certainty, not doubt, is what deserves our scrutiny. I want to distinguish between certainty and conviction. Someone can have deep convictions while remaining intellectually humble. Likewise, somebody can be highly uncertain, yet still dogmatic in other ways. I get that. A nuanced formulation here might be, my concern isn't conviction itself. Everybody has convictions, and that's fine. And it should be that way. It's the belief that my interpretation is so unquestionably correct that it can no longer be required to listen, it doesn't need to learn, and it doesn't need to be challenged. That's too far. And so in closing, I'm not saying that all conservative or orthodox Christians are necessarily lacking in compassion. I've heard some argue against so-called toxic empathy in some quarters, but I would offer a competing thesis here. The greater danger I experienced personally was not excessive empathy, but excessive certainty, and how that certainty affected my ability to love people well and see them as equally human. If you have ever felt like pain was answered with a proof text instead of compassion, I'd love to hear your story. What moment made you realize that being right wasn't enough anymore? And my hope is to create a place where questions are welcomed, people come before labels, and compassion is never treated as a compromise. And so thank you for your time and attention to this episode of Deconstruction Diaries. Until next time, keep asking questions. Peace.